Okay, welcome back to our next tutorial in BIM Vision. Obviously we're picking up where we left off in terms of our standard walls. In fact, it doesn't really matter whether you're opening the file for the first time and getting stuck into one of the model maps as such, or whether you're picking up where we left off from the last time around. But we're going to look at windows and doors today. So I'm going to uncheck type so nothing is on view. And then I'm going to click doors and click window, or door and window. And there are my IFC categories, and obviously within those IFC categories we have the individual objects. So I don't have to do this before I open the advanced reports, but it's good to have what you're measuring or what you're looking to measure on view, because if you're using the link to objects, you can click that link and it'll show that particular door. If all the building is in view, you might necessarily see the door within the building because it's hidden by a wall. So it's good just to click what you're working on, and then go into your plugins and select your advanced reports. So you might have already in the advanced reports what you have been working on the last time, and you'll have to remove the information from, it could be walls or it could be the foundations, from what you were doing the last time. You can actually save that information first before you actually remove it, just to make sure that if you want to use it again, you can load it and select it, and that will come back. Usually when you open it up for the first time, you'll just see an IFC entity name in the columns and the actual name of the object itself. The preview won't show anything in terms of rows, but it will show those columns because I haven't selected any objects yet. So I'm going to select objects from the object tab, and I'm going to select the objects that I want to do some takeoff on. So click the first object. I'm going to look for the IFC type, category, or folder, and I'm going to match it this time to a name, and I'm going to look for door. Now I'm not going to look for doors because I don't think there is. It is an IFC doors, it's IFC door. So look for any IFC type name with the word door in it, and do the same. Make sure R is selected there rather than and, because it'll do both. And I'm also going to match that and select window. Now, as I showed you before, I could do the little drop down and select the actual IFC category if I know what it is, or if I want to search for, there could be a number of different IFC categories with the word door in it, and in doing that by a match and typing it in, it'll pick up both those. So you can do it either way. It's fairly simple. Once you get used to this, it's not very onerous. Click columns, make sure there's a couple of things in there, and click preview, and you can see that it's starting to take shape there in terms of what I need. Obviously I need to add some more content here in terms of dimensions. So let's work with that and add that content. Object properties. So click add, and up comes, I suppose, the add columns pane. The first thing I want to do is obviously click the link to object. That's always worth having in there. It's already got the IFC entity in there and the name in there. Do I need anything else from that? Not for the moment. I can go back to it. Location, yeah, story's worth taking in. And if I scroll down, I'm going to take all my base quantities. Why not pull them in? See how my base quantities relate to my dimensions themselves. Scroll all the way down. I could select a lot of this stuff here. There is a lot of information in the windows because they're actually specific manufactured objects, digital objects, or digital twins if you want to call them that, from the actual product itself, downloaded from the NBS website in the UK. Let's take in the vision panels. Are they here? Yeah, let's take in the vision panel height and width. Let's take in the height. Now I can take in a load of dimensions here if I want to, but I'm just going to select really the ones I need to do maybe a cost plan measurement. So the height, the width and area. Did I miss area? I did. Let's select that. And run down height, width, width, I need W. So there's a lot of dimensions in this compared to what we had done before. And it's worth bringing in those few rather than all of them. It can completely confuse you. And scroll down. What else do I need here? It's worth taking in some identity data. Let's say the of course the comments. Where are they? Click, and that comments parameter holds the national standard building elements. Scroll down down to the other. Now sometimes these categories will be in identity data, but I always take in the family and type name from Revit. Gives you a good idea. And I also want to take in description if it's there. It could be back up here in identity data. It's worth taking that in. I think there's a good description of the door or window in that. There's a bit of trial and error with this, selecting information, then bringing it into Excel and possibly deleting the columns as you don't need it. And I think I'm okay for the moment. I could bring in a fire rating if I see it there in an entity, in a parameter. But there's a lot of information you can bring in. But for the moment, I'm going to limit what I do bring in because I don't want to confuse you. So click OK. And there we have a preview. And if I scroll across here, I can see all the information that I brought in. Now you'll see there's a few gaps. The gaps being here, in this case, the glazing panel, height and width, the comments, which are good in terms of whether they're internal wall completions, external wall completions, and whether the doors and windows. There's the description, gives a good description of the door or window. So I'm happy enough with that. I could go back even after I looked at the preview and add more columns or add more objects to the columns before I actually bring in that to Excel. So let's save that now. Save the file. As I said before, I can start grouping by, let's say, IFC name, comments, and you see if you play around with that, it starts doing a kind of a grouping as such in the actual view pane here, which is worthwhile, but that grouping comes into Excel as well. And I'm actually going to use Excel to do the grouping in terms of pivot table, so I don't really need that. But that's worth playing around with. I could click sum by here, and it would sum within the preview pane as well some of the quantities I'm looking for in terms of their overall quantity for each particular door or window. That's worth doing as well if I'm just using the view pane. But I'm going to do all this in Excel, and for the most part that's what you'll be probably doing, because that's the power of this tool, where I can export it in Excel and then use the power of Excel. So I'm going to click save to file here. Give it a name. I've already done my foundations and walls. I'm going to call it doors and windows, and then save. So let that run and open up at the same time, and let's take a quick look. So very similar to what we've seen before. We got the number which gets put in there when we're exporting it, IFC entity, whether it's an IFC door or window, the actual name of the object, which I have put in there, the IFC name, and then what story it's on, area, height, width, and area, area, height, and width from base quantities, and then area, glaze panel height, and width from the actual dimension properties. I've got a comments property, description property, family and type, and it's counting my objects. So I can just straight away do a pivot table on this and extract some fairly crude quantities, or I can add a little bit of information. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so what do we have going on here in terms of our Excel spreadsheet? One of the important columns here, as I said before, is this link to object. So I want to see a particular object in BIM Vision. I can click on, let's say for example I want to see this IFC door. I can click the link. Looks as if nothing's really happening, but if I go back to my BIM Vision, and I might need to minimize that, I can see that it's that particular door there with a vision panel. So clicking back again on my Excel spreadsheet, that was it there. Column 24, scroll across, does it have a vision panel? It does, and it's 1450 by 200. Now I'm going to add a couple of things here. First of all, before I do that, I'm going to check my base quantities match my dimensions, and then delete the ones I don't need. So height and width, 2100, 1010. Looking down at my base quantities, looking at my base width, they're pretty much matching all the way down there. So I'm happy enough with that. So what I might do is just delete those two there. Delete sheet columns, do my two area dimensions and base quantities match, and scroll down, and they do. So I can delete one of those. because I'm deleting base quantities, I might as well delete that one as well. And then I have my glaze panel, my height and my width. So I'm good enough with everything there. I'm going to add a couple of columns here, just between, say, comments and the width column there. Now this might not be in the exact same order I have it. It just depends on how you select it, and when how you select it in the object columns, in terms of how they come in. But don't worry if they're a little bit different. It doesn't really matter in terms of the orientation or which is before which when you come to creating your pivot table. I'm going to insert a column here, and what I want to do is I want to create, because I don't have a specific size, rather than one item that has a height and one item that has a width, I want a size in here, let's say in millimeters, that has both, and you'll see why I do that. So to do that, to put those two together, I'm going to use a formula, concate. I've got to click equals. There it is, concateness. Double click it, open my brackets, so equals concateness. Click the height, I'm going to put a little comma next, and then I'm going to open my brackets, space, big multiply by, space again, close brackets, or sorry, they're not brackets, they're quotation marks, comma again, and then click width. So using this concatenate, open brackets, the actual text from one cell, comma, insert in brackets what you want to put in between the next text, which you got to put comma, and the next cell, close brackets, and click enter. So there I have it. It just takes the text string from both those cells, puts them together with a multiplied in the middle, and if I pull down through all those, I get my size. And that's quite handy when I'm doing my pivot table to get the actual size of my windows or doors. I'm going to do the same with the glaze panel. So click insert and glazing panel. There we go. Also put in millimeters. Let's do something the same. Let's see if we can copy that, because I've it already set up. So right click copy, or control C, control V, and yeah, it works. I've double click it just to see. That's fine. Excel has the intelligence to know that it take the two preceding cells. You may have to drag and drop those cells if need be in terms of where they're linked to, but I'm happy enough with that. Just double check it and pull that down. So that's the size with the right corner. That's the size of my glaze panel. Now where the X is, I'm just going to delete them because they don't have a glaze panel. Okay, so I think I'm happy enough with the information there. I've got some good information. I'm not going to need it all to do a kind of, I suppose, a crude quantity takeoff, but I think I've got enough information there to do a good pivot table. So let's click. I might have to try this a few times. It takes a bit of trial and error. So let's click insert. Actually, before that, I need to highlight the series of cells that I'm going to use. I might actually, as I said before, delete some rows that I don't need. So I'm going to delete maybe 8, 9, and 10 here. You don't have to. It just tidies things up a little bit, so I'm not getting blank cells in my takeoff. So delete those cell sheet rows, and then highlight what I need. Scroll across. Got an object count there that has nothing in it because I didn't select it when I exported it, and that's the series. So insert. In the insert tab, pivot table, as you've seen before, new worksheet, click OK, and my pivot table opens up. So the first thing, like we did before, I want mine to come out with the comments. So again, I'm going to drag and drop that down, release, and in goes 2 rows, be my external wall completions and my internal wall completions, because that's the information that is in my comment objects. The next thing then, whether it's a door or a window, that's housed in this IFC entity, so drag that down. So now it goes in there IFC door or IFC window, and then IFC door into the internal wall completions. A specific name, I think a good one was in the description of the object, or I could take the family and type. Either one, but let's take the description. So that gives an idea there of what the door is, or what the window is in terms of its description. And then I might take in, what did I want? The size of the door, okay? Where did I put that? Click, here we go. So drag and drop that down, and there we get the actual size of the door. Now if I want to put in the actual glazed panel in there as well, glazed panel size, I can drop that down. Didn't go in, try it again, glazed panel size, there we go. And that goes in. I'm going to have a blank where there is no glazed panel size, but it goes in there. So I've just got to make sure that I know that that last item there is the actual size of the glazed panel. And let's put in the dimensions here. So let's maybe start with area, drop that in, sum of areas, that's the total area of my doors. Might be useful for painting both sides. Obviously I'd have to multiply by 2. What I'm really interested in obviously is the count. Now I can take any one of these, maybe the number or the name or the family and type, or the object count. Let me try one of them. Let's say take the name of the door, drop it in, and count of the name. If it's in sum, it won't work, so you need to click count of the name. Again, what you're going to do there, just to reiterate that, if it is in sum of name there, you want to click a little drop down, value field settings, and make sure it's on count rather than sum. So that'll count the doors for me. I've got 12 external wall doors, external wall completions. I've got 9 internal wall completions. I got 4 of these fire resistant double doors, and I got 4 and 4 of these different types and sizes of windows. And then I've got some single doors here, and then a single door with a vision panel. So that's a fairly good, I suppose, windows and doors pivot table that I can use in terms of my cost plan or my bill of quantities. This is not a cost plan, this is not a bill of quantities, although you could start adding in a unit rate and cost here, and it could start to form your cost plan, but it's just a crude measurement that maybe you can use and save and then type in or link in some way to your bill of quantities or your cost plan if you don't have Cupid, if you don't have Costex. So that's windows and doors in terms of BIM Vision export or takeoff, and I hope you got something out of that one. Like any piece of software, it just takes a little bit of time to play around with it. Trial and error, make your mistakes, adjust again, give it a go, and you kind of figure it out. It's not, what's great about this particular piece of software, it's not very difficult. Once you get the hang of it, and once you know the basics, and possibly once you've gone through these 3 different tutorials in terms of foundations, walls, and windows and doors, you can try something else. Try measure the floors on the roof, see if you can get some crude measurements from that. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I could measure these 2D just as quick. But this is a very small project, just for the purposes of showing you how to extract quantities from a BIM model. But more than likely, you'd have a very, you could have quite a large project. That's when the benefits of BIM comes into play in relation to extracting quantities, automated quantities, and something that may take you days, if not weeks, to carry out. So we'll leave it at that in terms of this tutorial, and we'll pick up with something else somewhere down the line. Thanks very much.